Chioma, this is a corporate event. It is not a village naming ceremony.
You will embarrass me. Please do not come.
Those were her husband's exact words. 300 of the most powerful people in West Africa would be in that ballroom. Chairmen, ministers, men whose names were on buildings, women whose photographs appeared in magazines. And Samuel did not want his own wife in the room. But she came anyway, and the moment she walked through the crowd in her simple black dress, no jewels, no announcement, she heard it. The whisper travels fast in a room like that. It moves the way smoke moves, invisible at first, then everywhere at once. Is that Samuel's wife? The village woman? Yes, that is her. Why did she come? She came in that. And then, from somewhere near the bar, unmistakably, laughter. Low and cultivated and thoroughly contemptuous. Chioma stood still for exactly 3 seconds. She counted. 1, 2, 3. Every person laughing at her that night had made the same mistake. They had looked at the quiet woman in the plain dress and assumed they knew exactly who she was. Laughing at her was their first mistake. It would also be their last. Sit back as we dive into this shocking story full of humiliation, hidden power, and the most devastating reversal this ballroom had ever witnessed. To understand what happened that night, you must first understand who Chioma Okoye was, and to understand Chioma, you must first understand her father. Chief Charles Okoye was not a man who announced himself. This is a rare thing in a world where men of wealth tend to carry it loudly, where the size of a man's compound speaks before his mouth opens, where the quality of his agbada tells you, before he says a word, exactly what he wants you to think of him. Chief Charles was not that kind of man. He drove a modest Toyota. He wore the same 4 agbadas for 40 years. He employed the same gateman, the same cook, the same housegirl for so long that their children grew up alongside his daughter. But Chief Charles Okoye owned things. He owned Okoye Industries, a textile and hospitality group that he had built quietly, carefully, over 32 years, until it was the largest of its kind in West Africa. It controlled 23 hotels, 11 manufacturing plants across Nigeria, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire, a trading arm that moved fabric across the continent, holdings in 3 commercial banks. He did not put his face on it. He did not give interviews. He sat on the board of the Nwosu Foundation, had sat on it for 18 years, and he wrote the largest single check at every annual gala, and he told no one, not even the people who sat beside him at those dinners. This was the man who raised Chioma. She was his only child. Her mother had died when Chioma was 9, a swift, terrible illness that took her in the dry season and left a man and a small girl alone in a quiet compound in Enugu GRA. Chief Charles had grieved in the private way of men who do not know how to be loud about anything. And then he had turned his full attention to his daughter. He taught her 3 things. He taught her to read a balance sheet, the way other fathers teach their daughters to read fairy tales. Carefully, slowly, with attention to what the numbers were hiding beneath what they said. He taught her that real power is the power that does not need to be seen. And he taught her that the room that laughs at you today may bow to you tomorrow, but that a woman of genuine substance does not enter a room to receive bows. She enters it because she has something to give. Chioma, he used to say, sitting on the veranda in the last light of the evening, never tell people what you are, let your work tell them. And if your work is quiet, then let the silence tell them. There is more authority in silence than in noise. The whole world is full of noise. Silence is the rarest thing. She was 23 years old when she met Samuel Nweke. He was 29. He worked in corporate finance at one of the larger Lagos banks. He was handsome in the particular way of men who know they are handsome, which is to say, deliberately. He had a quality that rooms responded to, a way of standing that occupied more space than his body required, a laugh that seemed to arrive before he did. Chioma met him at a business function in Lagos, one of those events where everyone is networking and calling it connection. He had approached her with a confidence she found interesting, not the confidence of a man performing for an audience, the confidence, she thought then, of a man who was genuinely curious about her. He took her number. He called the next morning. He told her, on their third meeting at a restaurant in Victoria Island, that she was the most quietly remarkable woman he had ever met. "You don't announce yourself," he said, and he said it with what seemed like genuine admiration. "You don't try to fill a room, but somehow you fill it anyway." She had thought, hearing those words, that here was a man who understood. Here was a man who would not need her to be loud. Here was a man who could sit in the silence with her. She was wrong, but she would not know that for several years. They married 18 months later, a ceremony in Enugu that Chief Charles arranged quietly and without fanfare. Small, beautiful, the right people, not the most people. Samuel's family came from Owerri, a large, warm, wonderful family who filled the compound with joy and akara and the particular happiness of people who have never been told to keep it small. And for a while, for the first 2 years, perhaps 3, it was enough. The erosion never announces itself. This is what the stories never tell you. They give you the dramatic moment, the confrontation, the betrayal, the breaking point. But they skip the 1,000 small moments that came before it, the 100 small choices, the accumulated weight of things unsaid and things said carelessly. Samuel began to rise at his bank. He rose the way ambitious men rise in Lagos, fast and then faster. He was promoted twice in 18 months. He was selected for a leadership program. He began attending events that he had previously only read about. And with each rise, something shifted in the way he carried himself at home. Not at the office, his colleagues saw the same man. But at home, the shift was visible in the margins. It was visible in the way he stopped asking about her day, in the way he began to speak about his work, not to share it with her, but to place it between them, like a wall of achievement she was expected to admire from the other side. It was visible in the way he began to notice, for the first time, the things about her that he had once called remarkable. Her quietness, which he had once admired, became a source of frustration. "You never want to go anywhere, Chioma. You never want to be seen." Her simplicity, which he had once found refreshing, became an embarrassment. "Must you always dress like that? You are the wife of a senior manager, not a market woman." She said very little. She had learned the art of saying very little from the man who owned 23 hotels and drove a modest Toyota. But she noticed. She noticed when Moji began appearing in Samuel's stories. Moji Adekunle was a colleague at the bank. She was, by every account, spectacular, tall, curated, with the kind of personal brand that Lagos rewards without apology. She wore her ambition the way she wore her clothes, expensively, deliberately, and for maximum visibility. She attended every event. She was photographed at every gala. She moved through Lagos like a woman who had decided that being seen was the most important thing. The first time Samuel mentioned her name, Chioma noted it and said nothing. The 5th time, she asked a quiet question and received a dismissive answer. By the 12th time, she had stopped asking. There is a kind of knowing that lives below the level of evidence. A woman does not always need proof. She needs only the pattern, the slightly different energy when the phone is picked up, the way a name is said too casually, the way a conversation changes shape when a question is asked too directly. Chioma had this knowing for 8 months before the thing became visible. It became visible on a Thursday in March. She had gone to the bank to deliver documents. The security knew her face. She was walking through the lobby when she saw them at the far end of the corridor. Samuel and Moji, standing close in the way that people stand when they have forgotten to manage distance. Samuel's hand at the small of Moji's back. Moji's face turned up toward his, saying something that made him laugh, that particular laugh, the one that arrived before he did. Chioma stood in the lobby for 7 seconds. She counted. Then she turned, walked back through the glass doors, got into her car, and drove home. She did not cry that night. She tried, because the feelings were enormous and required somewhere to go. But the tears did not come. Instead, something cold and very quiet settled into the center of her chest. Not anger, not grief, something older than both of those things. Something that felt like clarity. 3 weeks after that Thursday, her father died. Chief Charles Okoye passed on a Wednesday morning in his quiet compound in Enugu GRA, sitting in the same chair on the same veranda where he had told her so many years ago that silence was the rarest thing. The doctors said it was his heart. Chioma thought that was right, that his heart had carried so much for so long that it had finally decided it had done its work. She buried him on a Saturday. Samuel stood beside her and held her hand and played the part of a grieving son-in-law with a proficiency she recognized now for what it was. He had not known her father well. He had never tried to know him. 3 months after the funeral, she met with the family lawyers. What she inherited, and this is the part that Samuel did not know, had never thought to ask about, because he had never been particularly curious about the quiet man from Enugu who drove a modest Toyota. What she inherited was Okoye Industries in its entirety. Sole heir, majority shareholder in every subsidiary, chairwoman of the board, effective immediately. She did not tell Samuel, not because she was planning something, not because she was building toward a moment. She did not tell him because she had learned, from the man who built an empire in silence, that you do not announce yourself, and because she was not certain, in those early weeks of grief, what she wanted to do with any of it, with the company, with the marriage, with the life she was now holding in both hands. She was still deciding when the invitation arrived. Chairman Emmanuel Nwosu called her personally. "Chioma, your father was the foundation of everything we built together. I want to honor him at this year's gala, and I want you there. Please come." Samuel, when he found out, told her not to come. "It is a corporate event. These are important people. You will embarrass me." 1, 2, 3. She straightened her shoulders. She came anyway. She sat at table 14 for 47 minutes. 47 minutes of the murmur. 47 minutes of the careful way that people did not look at her, which is a more deliberate act than looking. 47 minutes of watching Samuel move through the room with Moji on one side and a champagne flute on the other, laughing that laugh, inhabiting that space. She drank her water. She straightened her shoulders. She waited. At the front of the ballroom, the program began. Speeches were given. Awards were presented. The particular music of wealth and occasion played on. And then Chairman Emmanuel Nwosu rose. He was a tall man, grey-haired, with the bearing of someone who had spent 50 years deciding things. He moved to the podium without hurry, adjusted the microphone, and waited for the room to settle. The room settled. "I want to talk to you tonight," he began, "about what this foundation is, not what it does. The programs, the scholarships, the initiatives. You know those. I want to talk about what it is. And what it is is a promise made quietly by a man who built something extraordinary and asked nothing in return. A man who sat in this exact room, for 18 consecutive years and wrote the largest single check of any individual donor and told no one, not even the people sitting beside him. The room was very still. That man passed away 4 months ago. His name was Chief Charles Okoye. A murmur moved through the ballroom. Recognition, but the incomplete recognition of people who knew the name, but not the face. The name on a plaque somewhere, a name in a report footnote. Chief Charles Okoye was the sole founder of Okoye Industries, the parent company of 34 entities across West Africa, including the hospitality group that owns this hotel, the hotel in which we are sitting. The chandeliers above your heads. The murmur became something larger. He taught me, Chairman Nwosu continued, that the best kind of power is the kind that does not need to prove itself. That the room that laughs at you today may bow to you tomorrow, but that a person of genuine substance does not enter a room to receive bows. He paused. He looked out across the 300 faces. Okoye Industries has, as of 3 months ago, a new chairwoman, a new majority shareholder. She inherited her father's entire estate, 34 companies, holdings in 3 commercial banks, and a philanthropic commitment to this foundation that she has already confirmed she will continue. She is here tonight, at my personal invitation. He looked directly toward table 14. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the woman who now owns Okoye Industries. The woman who, in fact, owns the hotel in which you are standing, the lighting above your heads, and, I say this with no small amount of quiet irony, the parent company of 2 banks whose own executives are in this room tonight. The pause was 3 seconds long. Her name is Chioma Okoye, and the room turned. 300 heads, 300 pairs of eyes, all of them moving at once toward table 14, toward the woman in the simple black dress. Chioma did not stand immediately. She set down her glass of water. She smoothed the front of her dress, the dress her mother had bought, the dress she had ironed that afternoon, pressing the hem flat with careful hands. She placed both palms on the table. She breathed once, slowly, the way her father had taught her to breathe before anything large. Then she stood, and she was magnificent. Not because of what she was wearing, not because of the chandeliers or the 300 people staring with their mouths open. She was magnificent because of the particular quality of her stillness, because of the way she held herself, not performing power, not claiming it, simply inhabiting it. The way you inhabit something that has always been yours. She nodded to Chairman Nwosu. She looked out at the room. She said nothing. She did not need to. Samuel Nweke was standing 12 meters away. She had known exactly where he was for 47 minutes. She had always known where he was in a room. Even now, even after everything. She watched the color leave his face. She watched him understand, not all at once, but in stages, the way terrible understandings arrive. First the name, then the company, then the hotel, then the parent company, then the banks. She watched each stage move across his features like weather moving across an open field. Moji Adekunle, standing beside him, had gone very still. The master of ceremonies began to clap. The room followed. 300 people in the Echo Atlantic Grand brought their hands together for the woman in the simple black dress. The woman they had whispered about 90 minutes ago. The woman they had placed at table 14. The woman whose own husband had told her she would embarrass him. The applause was very loud. Chioma stood in it. She did not smile the smile of triumph. She did not look toward Samuel. She smiled the quiet smile of a woman who had learned, from the man who drove a modest Toyota and owned 23 hotels, that this was never about proving anything to anyone. It was about simply being what you are, even when no one is watching, especially then. What happened after is not a story of revenge. This is important because the temptation, when you hear a story like this, is to want the dramatic ending, the confrontation, the courtroom, the satisfying crash of something broken. But Kioma was not built for that. What she was built for was something older and more powerful, the simple act of choosing herself. She filed for divorce on the Monday following the gala. She did it quietly, with a solicitor she trusted, in the same unhurried way she did everything. She did not make announcements. She did not call anyone. She packed 2 bags, not the full weight of a life, but 2 careful bags of the things that actually mattered. And she moved into the company apartment in Ikoyi that had been sitting empty since her father's passing. Samuel came, of course. He came 3 times that first week. He stood in the lobby and called her phone. He sent messages that escalated from confusion to explanation to something that might have been apology but had the structure of justification. He said he had not known. He said he would have done things differently. He said what she needed to understand was that none of this changed what they were to each other. She did not answer. Not out of cruelty. She had never been cruel. But because there was nothing left to say that the silence had not already said better. On the 3rd visit, she came down to the lobby herself. She stood in front of him in the morning light. No gala, no chandeliers, no room of 300 people. Just 2 people in a building lobby with a potted fern beside the door and the Lagos traffic moving outside. She looked at him for a long time, and then she said quietly, "Samuel, this is not a story about what you did. It is a story about what I chose to stop carrying." She turned and walked back to the elevator. She did not look back. There is something that Chief Charles Okoye understood, sitting on that veranda in Enugu, that the world spends a great deal of energy trying to forget, that the people who do not announce their power are often the ones who hold it, that the woman who arrives without jewels and sits at table 14 and drinks her water quietly and counts to 3, she is not diminished by the room. She simply has not yet decided to reveal herself to it. And there is this. The people who underestimate you are not always your enemies. Sometimes they are simply people who have not been paying attention. You cannot be angry at someone for not seeing you. You can only keep being what you are, quietly, completely, without apology, until the moment the room turns. And the room always turns. Never mistake her silence for the absence of something. The most extraordinary things in this world do not announce themselves. They simply arrive. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next powerful story. We bring you real-life stories of struggle, survival, and triumph that will inspire you, move you, and remind you of the strength within us all. Coming up next, we have another incredible story that will leave you speechless. You won't want to miss it. Like this video, share it with someone, comment below. See you in the next video. God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.